Hello and welcome to DRI's Profiles in Resilience, a new series highlighting resilience professionals in order to learn about their experiences and challenges. I'm Buffy Rojas Leach, DRI's Director of Communications. Thanks for being with us today. In honor of Veterans Day, we wanted to kick off this series by sitting down with someone who represents a growing population in our industry, veterans turned resilience professionals. Today, our host, Andrea Abrams, CBCP and Senior Business Analyst for Cash Business Continuity and Communications at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, will have an in-depth discussion with Michaela Felcher, CBCP and Senior Manager of Security for Walmart. Michaela received a DRI Foundation Veteran Scholarship and is also a member of the Foundation's Women in Business Continuity Management community. Be sure to stick around after the talk for special messages from the DRI Foundation's Veterans Outreach Program and the Women in Business Continuity Management Executive Committee. Andrea and Michaela, thanks for being with us today.
Welcome everyone to Profiles in Resilience. I am your host, Andrea Abrams. I have Nigel here with me, and we're wishing everyone a very happy Veterans Day on this very special episode featuring Michaela Felcher. Michaela, it's just wonderful to have you here with DRI today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we wanted to start out by, if you could please tell us about yourself. You have such a fascinating background in the resilience field and in the military.
Oh, well, thanks. So I actually retired from the military last year. I did almost 23 years. I joined the Army right out of high school. So I was active duty Army and then active Guard Reserve for Massachusetts National Guard and Arkansas National Guard. Because I'm originally from Massachusetts, been living in Arkansas now with my husband for 10 years. I currently work at Walmart as a security specialist for health and wellness, security and risk, where I'm responsible for the facility security risk management program for non-retail facilities in the U.S.
That's fantastic. And for those watching, we're going to be getting into a lot of fascinating detail with Michaela about her military career and how that interfaces with Walmart and all of her work in the resilience space. But first, in honor of Veterans Day, we have to ask, do you prefer uniform mode or civvies?
Oh my gosh. That is a good question because I never would have thought of that. But I have to say, right now, I am enjoying wearing more civilian clothes just because I get to explore my personal style a bit more. But wearing the uniform every day definitely had its perks. You didn't have to think about what to wear, for sure.
And there's some really fun articles about you that are out there and talking about like the ways that especially people find to have personal expression through nail polish color and non-visible, like, under your boots, that kind of thing. So that's fun. But we want to really get into your life path today because I think it's going to be really fascinating and inspirational for all of our viewers of Profiles in Resilience, and especially our military professionals that we honor today on Veterans Day. Can you please talk us through, in your life path, what caused you to join the military and then find business continuity? It's such a fascinating trajectory that you had.
Yeah. So for me, joining the military was actually a pretty easy decision. I joined when I was young. I signed up for the Army 2 days after my 18th birthday when I was still in high school. Despite some of my counselors in high school, I was an honors student, AP student, and I was actually told that I was too smart to join the military. I should have gone to college, but my parents were thrilled. I come from a military background. My father and grandfather were Air Force. So for them, my parents were very supportive of that. So right when I graduated high school, I went off to basic training and absolutely loved it. I saw it as the opportunity to travel, to see the world, and just do something different. Because I didn't know, if I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do at that time. When you're 18, does anyone really know what they want to do? I thought it was just going to be so much fun and so different. And I actually enlisted as a helicopter mechanic. So,
fabulous.
Yeah.
I remember taking that ASVAB, and it told me that my aptitude was something around like engine repair or something like that. So I was like, oh, maybe they're picking up on like fine motor skills because I was a piano. So that's really cool. I saw the helicopter work in your background. And then what caused you to find business continuity from your military career?
So part of my additional duties in the military, I was doing physical security, and I was also doing anti-terrorism, which a lot of that was determining different risk levels and vulnerabilities and threats. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I was inspired by my training in the military, and then I also received a master's degree in emergency management and homeland security. So I figured that if I pursued that in the civilian world, it would pair really well, and just very much piqued my interest. So yeah, I found DRI through just different resources that were out there. I was like, okay, I can do this, outside the uniform too. So.
Oh, that's so fabulous. And shout out to your master's degree. That's very impressive as well. And what a fabulous field that can really help so many people, especially in this era that we're living in. So what would you describe your fellow female veterans? Veterans Day is such a special day. There are several veterans in my family as well. And I feel like it's really great to acknowledge that as women, sometimes the military experience can have our own unique genre of it.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe that for women?
Well, I think of my friends, my female friends who are still currently serving, have a lot of them. And when I think of them, I think they're all very strong women. They're very confident, and they're very dedicated to their service. So, I mean, you have to be strong physically in the military, but also mentally and emotionally, because you're spending so much time away from home oftentimes, that takes just that strong personality to handle that, the complex situations that are involved. And then I think from that strength, you gain that confidence just to experience anything. You're like, throw it at me. I've already been to Iraq. This is cool. I can handle this.
Right.
Yeah. And then just so dedicated. Everyone, they're in the uniform for a reason, and most of us want to serve our country.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I really appreciate you sharing all of that. And speaking of the strength, I mean, I know people who got past the military recruiter but could not finish basic training. I mean, basic training is no joke, not to mention all of the mental fortitude and resilience that you're referring to. So I just have utmost admiration for you, Michaela. It's such a joy to have you on the show today.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thing that we wanted to invite you to explore in even greater detail is if you could please help us understand the commonalities and differences between your military career and your business continuity career. I think that will really help people who are doing the analysis of perhaps considering a path in one of those areas.
Yeah, I think so. For me, one of the commonalities in that field, in both the military and the civilian world of business continuity, is from a female perspective, it seems a little male dominated. So I don't want any females to, get turned away from that thought. But there are a lot of strong females in this field. Right now, I've met a lot of them. Can call a few of them my mentors at this point too. So it was, the same thing as a helicopter mechanic in the military. We were definitely outnumbered. So you may have had to prove yourself a little bit and stand your ground, but definitely, if you're educated and you know what you're talking about, then, your male counterparts can't say anything, they can only admire you for that. I think as far as differences go, military was probably a lot more structured environment. So dealing, with that freedom of thought and not having to wait for an order to do something or be told how to do something always by the book. In the civilian world, it's a lot less structured and rigid, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and speaking of the preparation, I totally agree with you. That is one of the secrets, I think, to confidence in situations, just going in prepared. And when we can establish ourselves as a subject matter expert, sometimes those gender differences fall away. For those considering taking their DRI coursework and becoming certified, I'm one of the DRI instructors, so we might meet each other again if you're
There
in
you go.
my class. And I think it would be wonderful to have additional women, additional veterans follow Michaela's examples and join us in this profession. So now we want to, Michaela, really go into a little more detail about sometimes when you've experienced a hazardous situation, either in active duty or just in the civilian world. When you have encountered those situations, what was it like from a business continuity perspective? What have you learned from those situations? I'm sure that you have just a wealth of examples of hazardous situations you've been in, but maybe you could draw out some themes for us that you've noticed in terms of how business continuity has helped you navigate.
Sure, yeah. I think, you know, when I think of a crisis or a hazard I've been in, you know, there's been some real world stuff, but there's also things that we train on explicitly to, hey, what if this happened? You know, all the what if scenarios. And so one thing you have to do is just rely on your training and stay calm in those moments. You know, like, okay, I can handle this. Take deep breaths. We'll get through this one step at a time, and you know, recognize that you have other people there to help you if need be as well. So, you know, relying on your support, and relying on, you know, your instinct and your training as well.
Yeah. Well, someone told me, and I would be interested in your thoughts on this, like when everyone, the advice that you always hear of stay calm, everybody stay calm,
Yeah.
that it's not just crowd control, that it actually does help make sure that you do get adequate blood flow to the parts of your brain that need to be involved in the logical analysis, and that you just, one doesn't hijack their response with simply adrenaline. Do you have any insights into the benefits of staying calm in a crisis or hazard situation?
I think, yeah, I'm trying to think. We had several occasions, and just going back to some of my deployments where you know, we'd get mortared at night, and you know, you had to react. You couldn't just stay where you were at. You had to go for safety. And so if you were, you know, lost in the chaos, you know, it'd be, you'd really be doing the wrong thing. Hopefully somebody would be there to guide you and show you which direction to go. But, you know, if you didn't stay calm and do the right thing, it'd be detrimental to your safety as well as others. If there's anyone trying to follow you and you're going in the wrong direction. So that's just one thing that comes to my mind.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. Well, we are assuming that when you all are meeting meals together, that's probably it's fun time with friends and maybe a little bit of lightheartedness when especially when you're in active duty. So the question of the hour is on those REs. Were there any that were particularly delicious? Are there ingredients that you would have liked to have switched out? Could you give us some empathy into what those are like?
Oh my gosh. Well, thankfully the MREs have gotten better over the years. There was a lot of times where I think I would only want to eat the peanut butter and not even eat the meal. And, you know, a lot of people, where when you're in training or, you know, you're in a fast-paced scenario situation, you can't even heat up your MRE to eat it. So sometimes you're like, which one's best cold? And you have to think of that. So I think I would try not to eat the bread too much. I didn't like the cheese, so if I didn't get peanut butter, I would always try to trade something for peanut butter just to get something with a little bit of sweetness and protein.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that protein is really helpful. And these are all types of strategies for getting through a fast-paced conflict situation. That's fabulous. So now we want to pivot from, your fascinating military background. And thank you, by the way, Michaela, for your service. I am very grateful for all you've done for our nation and for those in other countries too. Can you please share what inspired you to pursue business continuity? You mentioned that you found DRI through some resources that were available in grad school, and we just really want to hear your thoughts and what caused you to really go for it with business continuity.
Yeah, I think just the aspect of, in today's world, what are the threats that we're facing? And just how much that's evolving and changing and with technology and how many businesses don't even consider the what if before the pandemic. Did half these businesses consider a pandemic could impact them? So I think I was just fascinated by what's facing us and how do we mitigate the risk that's out there and be successful in the business world. I think it was just something that I see as, I don't know, maybe like a puzzle, and how do we solve that puzzle and keep going. I just wanted to get involved in that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I quite frankly can see this as a way that our veterans can really help continue being of service to share all that knowledge in the business continuity space. So for those who are thinking about it, we want to get really tactical and real into a lot of detail now for them to help them visualize. I shared earlier that I'm one of the instructors for Introduction to Business Continuity. Can you please talk people through, like in real practical terms, what was your experience applying for the scholarship that you have through the veteran program and outreach, taking the course, taking the exam? Like, what would you counsel people to, keep in mind and all of that? Because it's one thing to, this opportunity exists in the veteran outreach scholarship, but we want to hear from you what it was like to really walk through that process.
It was a great experience. Just the level of professionalism from everyone at DRI that I dealt with was amazing. And it was super easy on my end. I submitted the application and I think I got a phone call almost immediately. And the timing was just perfect. There was, I had been reached out to by someone from the Veterans Outreach Program, and they're like, hey, if you can, we loved your application. If you're available, can you take this class that starts in 2 weeks? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, count me in. And so I had an amazing instructor. My class was all military. It's actually Space Force personnel in my class, which was my first dealing with Space Force. And so my instructor, he was awesome. He was a colonel. I think he was a Air Force colonel too at the time. So we all had that connection, or retired Air Force colonel, but we all had that connection. And he made the class fun. So it wasn't, you're just sitting behind a computer being boring. We were very interactive. And he made sure that we were well prepared for the exam. So when it came time for the exam, yeah, I was nervous like anyone would be, to take it, but I knew that, I had the proper notes and I had studied, and was prepared enough for it. So it was a great experience.
Wonderful to hear. That's really good. And so everyone out there watching this, if you're considering applying for the Veteran Outreach Scholarship, applying to become a certified business continuity professional or the exam, Michaela is our evidence. I mean, for those of you who are veterans, my goodness, we feel like this will be a piece of cake for you compared to what you have been used to encountering. And I really appreciate you sharing that level of detail. That's exciting to know you had such an encouraging instructor as well, because that can make such a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So now you kind of hinted earlier that sometimes it can be less women that you see in the business continuity industry and in the military experience. We're somewhat familiar with that. But can you talk about when you encounter challenges in the business continuity industry? Are they similar to the challenges you experienced as a female in the military, being a female practitioner of business continuity? Are they different challenges? We really want to give some empathy for women pursuing these industries. What can be some of the challenges you might encounter?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges for the military are a little more unique, just because we were put in situations sometimes where the women, when we were doing a training exercise or on deployments, you were often separated from the men. And so as far as living conditions, so oftentimes communication was a bit of a barrier when you're not even in the same barracks or in the same tent. So those were challenges, on the military side, but on the business continuity side, I'd say the men are a lot more receptive, of women in their field, and I haven't really encountered too many issues yet where I felt that I was being looked at or judged, as being a female, but I've had very receptive male counterparts so far.
Good. Oh, that's really exciting. It's nice to know that our culture is evolving in the right direction. That's great. So now you've kind of touched on this, Michaela, but when you were doing your military service, now that you have the benefit of the hindsight as a business continuity certified professional, do you have any interesting examples for us of like, oh yeah, that was a business continuity practice all along, or a business continuity event all along, but maybe at the time you didn't recognize it as such? Or is there any interesting insights in hindsight now that you've been through the formal practice of learning business continuity and evaluating your military service through that lens?
Yeah, I think some of the similarities that I didn't realize until, I did more business continuity training. Some of the things we do in the military, just the training aspects, such as tabletop exercises or simulation exercises, all that carries forward into business continuity as well. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can relate to that. Also, we would conduct annual surveys in the military, that covered like day-to-day aspects of our job we'd have to get evaluated on. I'm like, okay, this is kind of what maybe you would do for like a yearly, business impact assessment or analysis, conducting that survey and then, doing the what if scenarios and all that. So I think there's a lot of the continuity of operations was a big thing that I didn't realize was something that would carry over. And so I really tapped into that in the background because I used to do operations and, I can tap into that experience from the military side.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's very exciting for me because it's a really great example of, for our veterans who are watching in particular, when you're shopping for what's the next chapter going to be, it seems like business continuity for some could be a really fulfilling fit to apply that knowledge. And as a reminder for everyone, in this episode of Profiles in Resilience, we have Michaela Felcher. She's an amazing director of security at Walmart, veteran recipient of our Veteran Outreach Scholarship from DRI. And Michaela, I want to ask you, do you have wisdom and advice you'd like to share with the rest of us? Did anyone ever tell you some really cool advice that you really want to share? I think that would be a good note to wrap up on. And then I'm going to ask you if there's anything else you want to add that didn't get brought out from our questions today.
I think, and I can't remember who told it to me, I wish I could remember, but one thing I would like to pass on to any of my fellow veterans out there who are maybe still serving or not sure what to do in the civilian world, but my one piece of advice is that there is life after the military. So don't be shy, get yourselves out there. Utilize the resources that are provided to you. When I was getting ready to retire, I started planning several years out. So I did the workshops, I did classes, used professionals to help write your resume and do interview prep. So there's life after the military, and the civilian world is not so scary.
That's beautiful, beautifully well said. And it makes me fired up to seek out my career in business continuity, and I already have one. So we really You've been so inspirational. Michaela, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our viewers today that you thought you'd like to bring up that maybe I didn't reach at in the questions that I've asked? We're just so excited and grateful to have you on the show today, and you may have other things you wanted to add.
I'm just happy to be here and happy to meet more of my DRI folks in business continuity world, and just like to say Happy Veterans Day to all the other veterans out there.
That's wonderful. Yes, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans, and happy Veterans Day to you, Michaela. We're so grateful to you for being on the show today. Thank you for being here, and looking forward to seeing everyone at our next episode of Profiles in Resilience. Happy Veterans Day.
Hi, I'm Keith Pearson, a member of the DRI Foundation's Veterans Outreach Committee and also a beneficiary of the Veterans Outreach Program. I'm here today to tell you that this program works and is worthy of your continued support. The Veterans Outreach Program helps skilled veterans transition into professions of emergency response, crisis management, business continuity, and disaster recovery by providing free education, certification, and job placement. I'm just one of more than 1,000 veterans who have received DRI training free of charge. I currently work in business continuity management as a senior analyst for Bank United in Miami Lakes. About a year and a half ago, I was an Air Force Master Sergeant stationed at Vandenberg Space Force Base, who is rapidly approaching 20 years of service. I was looking to improve my chances of a promising career in the civilian sector by earning additional certifications. And that's when I discovered the DRI Foundation. Today, my goal is to get 10 to 20 veterans hired in the business continuity profession each year, and you can support that by donating to the DRI Foundation or considering a VOP candidate for job openings on your team. To learn more or donate, visit drii.org. And thank you for supporting the DRI Foundation's Veterans Outreach Program, helping those who protect us.
Hi, I'm Robin Kimbrough of the DRI Foundation Women in Business Continuity Management Executive Committee, and I'm excited to share some of our successes with you today. At 900 strong, the Women in Business Continuity Management WBCM community is the largest membership organization in the resilience profession, and we are growing every day. Our official goals are to bring women together to forge strong personal networks and assist women in advancing with their chosen fields, and explore and recommend specific actions and strategies to serve the needs of women in these professions. What does that really mean? What can we do? And how can you participate? In addition to providing scholarships for women in need to take a DRI training course and become certified, we also have a vibrant mentorship program that has matched over 100 mentors and mentees, a WBCM track at DRI's annual conference, and an active LinkedIn group where members can participate in our 2-Question Tuesday Q&A. We invite you to join us. And we especially invite experienced women in the resilience field to become WBCM mentors, a rewarding experience and a great way to give back to the profession. Speaking of giving back, you can always support WBCM by donating at the DRI Foundation. For more information on all things WBCM, contact WBCM at driif.org, call 646-619-3599, or you can visit drii.org. And thank you for believing in the DRI Foundation Women in Business Continuity Management Community, a forum for women supporting women.
Thank you again to all of today's speakers. You can be part of more high-level resilience conversations by attending DRI 2023 at the Marriott downtown in Austin, Texas, February 26th through March 1st. Our speaker program is growing all the time on topics like cybersecurity, vendor relationships, building resilient communities, and more. Go to conference.drii.org for more information and to register. And be sure to use the code EB23 to receive your early registration discount. If you have questions, call 866-542-3744 or email driinfo@drii.org. Thanks for your attention and have a great day.